Hello YouTube friends. I just want to show y'all what progress I made on the radio here. And let me show you. I got the friction drive back together again. And this is tougher than you would think. But I got it together. And see, it turns nice. There's no slippage. And then when you pull it out, it's just like the 60-to-1 ratio. I think that's what it is. That's really cool. Now, I lubricated the tuner on all the pivot points on the tuner. And I got that turning really easy. I could turn that with my hand. This is pretty good. Pretty loose. Now, I got the bushings in here. All the 3 bushings. There's 2 in the front and 1 in the back. And I used like on the previous video, I used that washer and you can see on the previous video what I did on there. But let me show you a problem I had with this. It's very interesting. And I got a little cold, so bear with me. But if you look here, the tuner, when they made this, see there's a little cutout here. Get the light on there. See, there's a cutout on the tuner, and that allows this rivet type thing to move up and down with the band switch indicator. And if you look, it comes really close, that little rivet there. I mean, and what it was it was actually hitting on it. And I said, well, maybe the tuner was too high. So I had to keep remeasuring it with the holes here in my radio. Now I got the cabinet back down here to show you something. See, I was measuring, and I use this measuring tape because I could see the numbers pretty good. But when I measure it, I actually get between the center of that hole to the center of the other hole, it ends up to be 2 7/8 exactly, or 2 14/16. Now, when I measure on this side, and once the radio's together, I measure, or once this friction drive's together, I measure from the center of the friction drive where the tuning knob goes to this knob here, which is the band switch knob, and it comes to be slightly under 2 7/8. It's like 2 13/16, a little less than 14/16. So because this distance is closer, this actually should be a little higher, and that means the tuner should be even a little higher. You know, it's like maybe between a 32nd and a 16th too low between the distance of the holes here and the distance of the holes here. Now I know you're going to say, well, so what? You know, it's a little closer, so, you know, this knob's going to be a little slightly lower. You won't notice that at all. But, you know, I just want to get the radio as perfect as I can for like a tribute to the engineers who designed this thing. But it was very, very close on the band switch thing, where it goes up and down, where that stud is there, that little rivet. It's very close to the tuner. So what I did was I tightened on the back bushing a little tighter. The front bushings are snug. The back bushing I tightened up a little tighter, and that put the tuner on a very, very slight tip, very slight I mean, you can't see it, but it's enough to move it a little bit. And it still barely touched. So what I did was I kind of grabbed the assembly and just bent it just a little bit. I mean, just like a little bit, like a 32nd of an inch or something. And it just misses. That stud there that goes up and down just misses. So go figure on that one. So the tuner seems to be the right height and all that. But if I put the tuner lower, then these will be closer and it wouldn't look right when the shafts came out the two holes. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, the tolerances they got on this radio are pretty close. And then what I also did was I lubricated these little points here with a toothpick. Put a little oil on there from the oil can. Got a little oil. I just put lube on there. It'll soak in through like osmosis, like not really osmosis, but it'll get in there. And I put a little dab real close to this wheel in here. I didn't want to get any oil on this drive part here. So then I tested it out for the band switch here. And it's pretty smooth because I cleaned the tracks and I put a really thin film of oil on the tracks and I lubricated these little pivot points here. There's a number of them there. There's 1, 2, and these on the slide pivots here. It's a little more light. I lubricated those too. So it turns pretty good. And I could turn it, with my hand. So that's cool. And I just temporarily put the shadow meter on just to see how that would look on there. And the shadow meter has adjustment slot there. So any movement I made here, and it was slight. I had to move it slight. It's okay because the shadow meter has enough slot adjustment here to adjust it back and forth where it fits in the window of the radio. And that fits into the top portion of the dial here. So the next thing I got though is I got the dial scale. I put that up over here. And now what I got to do is I'll put the scale back on for the dial, and there's actually still has a little like a belt, and this belt was probably replaced, who knows, 30 years ago or something. It's not that bad. I try to get a replacement. Some people have replacement belts, but they're not familiar with this. They don't have it listed or anything. But this is still in good shape. So the next thing I got to do is this dial is a little warped. I think if you remember from an early video, someone had written warped on there, and the dial is warped. So the next trick is to straighten the dial out so that it doesn't hit anything. Because I noticed when I first put it on, it was hitting down here when it swung around. So I gotta straighten that dial out, and that goes on something like this. Let me slip it on. Now the belt's not on, but I gotta make sure that it's not hitting. And there's a little warpage there on the bottom, or it's bent or something. So I gotta make sure it's, you can see it, it's a little bent there. Looks like they bent it away from it. That's probably where it was hitting. But I gotta work on that. and then I'm going to test it and put it into the cabinet and see how it all fits. And I want to do that first before I get the radio working, so I don't have like a horrible surprise when I get the radio working and try to put it in the cabinet. Take it easy, folks. Bye.